Fucking Australia! Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and happy Australia Day 2024. Yeah, this is pretty much just an excuse to do Sonic. I don't even why I bother with a theming. Started with Crash Bandicoot, which was vaguely appropriate. I don't really have a lot of love in my heart for Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, so fuck it. Chronic, the normal Sonic. Yeah, we're just doing Sonic 1. I don't really have much of a place to put this, so I figured, queest, get it out of the way. Wax nostalgic about Snock the Hoghead and just fucking do whatever, really. So, back to in terms of history of what game we are currently playing for the two of you that live under a rock. Well, Sonic the Hedgehog is a game. I mean, you could honestly go to any other video about Sonic the Hedgehog 1, any other commentary, let's play, even my review. I've already covered all of this before, so yeah, plenty of other sources to find out what a Sonic even really is, or how it's even made, or why it's still going. The eternal mystery, one might wonder. But anyway, facetiousness aside, and to actually get into brass tacks, yeah, why I decided to do this game for Australia Day, I just wanted a game to relax. Sonic 1 is a fairly relaxing experience, for the most part. I mean, it's not the most speed-based of Sonic games, after all, this was very much the first go at it. But again, I still think Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is a very comfy experience in spite of a few, you know, nicks and needle pricks here and there, so yeah, let's just keep it easy, keep it sleazy, take it easy, and just enjoy ourselves as we go through this wonderful, magical land of abstract fantasy aesthetics, which is actually tying into a bit of development history, really, which, again, we all know the origins of Sonic, the normal Sonic, the regular Sonic. I'm gonna stop that now because that's starting to get irritating. Yes, even insofar as the whole drug trip theming that you're seeing right here. Yeah, the whole dreamscape aesthetic, you know, I suppose to give it its technical term, the techno-neon dreamscape aesthetic that classic Sonic is much revered for, at least by its fandom, was partially inspired by the fact that Sonic was initially not going to be running through, you know, fantasy biomes, but instead through a realm of dreams and nightmares. Something that you can actually see in a lot of early concept art for character creation, actually, because Eggman himself, the titular antagonist, initially started life as a potential main character for this game, which was pretty much a caricature of Teddy Roosevelt in pajamas. So yeah, Dr. Eggerman could have been the hero, but instead, Sonic was the hero. And quite frankly, I think that was for the best, because given some of the other sketches I've seen of, you know, an armadillo, something else, I think it was like a rabbit or whatever, that actually got a playable appearance in a Sonic Superstars. Yeah, kind of like Sonic's attitude, dude. Which, I mean, I suppose is partially the reason why the character has survived as long as he has, but all the same, though, again, it is very much a blend between, you know, the actionized Yuji Naka elements and the fantastical, oh no, Sonic is a fairy boy thing that Naoto Oshima seemed to really have a massive hold-on for, in terms of his artistry. But anyway, I guess I might as well talk about history for the one or two of you who don't really know what's going on. Sonic the Hedgehog, platform game, created to rival Mario in 1991. Pretty much meant to be the Mega Drive's big mascot, replacing Alex Kidd, if he even was technically a mascot, because the Master System pretty much had, like, 5 different mascots a week. I mean, like, there was the Ninja game, then there was, like, Opa Opa, then there was Alex Kidd for a while, and then it was just sort of like fucking who knows, really. I mean, it's a kind of a similar sort of thing that kind of plagued, I guess, the Xbox in time before Master Chief was really a thing. They had no real identity, but then Sonic came along and gave them their purpose. But anyway, this is very much the brainchild of 3 people: Hirokazu Yasuhara, Yuji Naka, obviously, and of course Naoto Oshima. Naoto Oshima drew the Sonic, and pretty much came up with a lot of the techno-neon dreamscape aesthetics. Yuji Naka very much defined a lot of Sonic's actionized qualities. Again, he based a lot of this, a lot of the Sonic style, so to speak, on, you know, not just shonen anime like Dragon Ball Z, but he also, you know, took a bit from American action movies. Not quite so prevalent in Sonic 1, but definitely as he directed games and became executive producer later on. And as for Hirokazu Yasuhara, well, again, along with Yuji Naka, he was a bit of a programming buff, and, you know, had a pretty significant influence in terms of how the games were, you know, flowing and functioning. But anyway, putting all of that aside, it's time to go through this techno dreamscape. Which actually got a very fucking tiring music remix in Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which... Oh dear god, I mean, if this is putting you to sleep, then dear god, the one in Sonic 4 will... makes you want to take a nap. But anyway, if I have to describe what's going on screen, yeah, collecting the Chaos Emeralds. I initially wasn't gonna do this, but then I wound up getting all 6 of them anyway by sheer fucking luck. Which again, isn't that just the way? You don't intend to collect the Chaos Emeralds, you know, the important MacGuffins to the series, and yet, when you're not trying, you get all 6 of them fairly fucking easily, but again, when you actively set out to get them, then they're hard as fucking balls. Yeah. But anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, it's not quite the momentum-based, speed-based physics simulator that a lot of fans like to, you know, sing praises as of later games. Yeah, this one's very much just a basic-ass platformer with speed involved. It is admittedly a much fairer platformer compared to a lot of other platformers of the time. Again, there's no Mega Man-esque move off screen 5 paces, then all of a sudden enemies come back and can easily pip you and whittle down your health. After all, Sonic is a one-hit point wonder. If you lose your rings, you're pretty much buggered. So rings are your insurance. Don't waste them, otherwise the Dawn is gonna get angry at yous. But, yeah. That's pretty much it. Again, you can tank a few hits here and there, provided you got some rings. But everything else, yeah, pretty much requires the same sort of platforming instincts. Look out for bottomless pits, look out for hazards, enemies, you know, bottomless pits. Your basic works, really. The difference is that it's primarily just about, you know, memorizing the level design, speed racing your way to the end, and making sure that you look cool while doing it. And, yeah, look forward to seeing speed in this level, because you're not going to be seeing it for a while, because it's after Green Hill Zone that this game begins to embody its basic-ass platforming roots for about 3 levels in, with speed peppered throughout, and then everything else gets pretty much buggered. But at the end of every third act, you get a boss fight against Dr. Eggerman. Which, to kind of talk about something, isn't actually Sonic and Eggman's first encounter, because the manual implies that they've actually had a few tangos before, so yeah, that's odd. But I mean, anyway... basically, Eggman is pretty much... what Eggman's really doing here is that he pretty much came to South Island, which is... I don't think it's implied to be Sonic's home, or is Christmas Island still technically canon? Or was that American? Whatever, the point is that Eggman pretty much came here looking for the mystical Chaos Emeralds, had a few tangos with Sonic beforehand until he decided to have a great idea of putting animals into robots. So basically, all of Sonic's friends are imprisoned, he has to go rescue them, put a stop to Dr. Eggman's drilling operations from getting the Chaos Emeralds, and of course, stop him from gaining ultimate power. It's pretty cool like that. But anyway, that's all the story context is really getting at this stage. Everything else is primarily just, you know, visual storytelling, which classic Sonic really seems to double down on. And I will say, like, in terms of artistry, a lot of the characters were designed by Naoto Oshima and, you know, enemies and all that sort of stuff. In terms of a lot of the background elements, they were designed by a rather famous Sega alumni who's sadly no longer with us, Phoenix Rie, aka Rie Kodama. Now, those of you might recognize her for a lot of her work on the Phantasy Star series as being the brainchild behind that, and my god, you can really fucking tell, especially with, like, Sonic 1 compared to where the rest of the series would go, because a lot of the vistas that you're seeing do very much feel like something you would have seen in, you know, Phantasy Star 2 for the Mega Drive, which, I don't know, adds a nice bit of visual identity to Sonic 1 and 2, I feel. But yeah, I mean, it's also worth noting that a lot of early Sonic Team alumni, such as, you know, Akinori Nishiyama, as well as Yuji Naka himself, were actually heavily involved in the production of the original Phantasy Star, so yeah, like, I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog did start as well as flourish the careers of many, even, like, this early on, so I don't know, it's a pretty inspiring game regardless. But anyway, this is what I was talking about in terms of the level design. Being very much slow-paced platformer. Again, it's requiring you to wait for hazards, make sure that you carefully time your jumps, and bada bing, you do the thing, and gradually make your way across the level. Marble Zone isn't so bad with this, but it is definitely the zone where a lot of people tend to call it quits, at least in terms of people who first, you know, get their feet wet with Sonic the Hedgehog, so to speak, or at least on a casual basis, because I have introduced people to the original Sonic the Hedgehog before just to see how far they get, and again, they blitz through Green Hill Zone, defeat the boss, Then when they get to a level that actually requires them to start doing some platforming and, you know, slow down a little bit like this, they tend to completely ice themselves, really, in the sense that, this game kind of sucks, I don't want to play this anymore. And I think a lot of that does sort of have to do with the level of speed that's given to the player's volition. Again, you can't just blitz through levels and, you know, treat this as just like a sort of Sonic Forces doolally where you can pretty much just boss your way through and just expect to do fucking gangbusters. No. You do need to heavily pay attention towards what you're doing and, you know, how fast you're going, because if you don't, well, you're gonna get buggered, and I kind of feel like that's where a lot of people tend to lose interest with Sonic compared to you other sort of basic platformer like akin to a Mario sort of thing, because, you know, platformers akin to Mario, you know, very basic sort of, you know, adequately teaching the player the level design, they actively slow you down when they want you to platform if you want to succeed. I mean, depending on whether or not you get to the harder levels, but since you're given control of Sonic's speed, again, if the player has the ability to go fast, then in their brain they think that they should. Which is where I feel, you know, stuff like Mobile Zone that, you know, is pretty much leaving it up to the player to slow down on their own. It comes into fruition, and where later games like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 especially, and Sonic & Knuckles, whereas they tend to have a more natural stopgap. So again, you know, you have a lot of speed, have a lot of fun, it pleases that part of your brain, but then you stop at a point in which the level just pretty much deadbolts you, like, okay, here's time for platforming, no more fucking around. And again, that pretty much just, you know, tells you what to do naturally without interrupting the flow of gameplay. But anyway, that's amateur game design bullshit that you have to listen to me because I'm some fucker with a complex name on the internet doing whatever. I'm making fun of YouTube people, again. But in any case, though, yeah, to kind of get back to what the commentary is meant to be, or at least for those of you unfamiliar with the Australia Day setting, I'm pretty much just sort of winging it. Again, I'm pretty much just gonna have a couple of drinks, just sort of relax with a game that I'm familiar enough with, see, I'm slurring my words already, that I'm pretty much familiar enough with so that I don't really need to rely on fucking tangents or whatever. I can just pretty much just shoot the shit. Treat it as a bit more of a casual game time session. How does this change between any other commentary? I don't know. But I mean, at least with a lot of other commentaries, I usually try and be a little bit more informative or, excuse me, a little bit more interesting, whereas here I'm just sort of fucking winging it, really. But yeah, like, I mean, it's not completely impossible to, you know, speed the levels along and, you know, time your jumps so that you can maximize the amount of speed and complete levels really quickly in exchange for, you know, points and potentially getting continues when you hit the end screen. It's just that, well, again, if you want to maintain, you know, a set of 50 rings and making it to the end of the level so you can get the special stage, it requires patience, practice, and memorizing the level design, as was Yuji Naka's design ethos when he was rushing through Super Mario Bros. All those years ago. And man, it feels weird talking about Yuji Naka when Yuji Naka was arrested. Or at least, like a vast majority of the internet Sonic fandom has pretty much turned their back on him, because, not that I fucking blame them, mind you, because, I mean, the guy was pretty much committing crimes, and, I mean, even before, like, the whole insider trading thing with Square Enix even happened, he did have a reputation for being a bit of a drama queen, but, like, I mean, I've seen, like, a buttload of fans try and rewrite the history books by saying that Naoto Oshima was pretty much the sole one responsible for everything that made Sonic great, completely forgetting that, you know, there was a skilled programmer involved in Yuji Naka, and even Oshima himself admitted that, again, he would have been able to better handle Sonic CD if Yuji Naka used his programming prowess to make some of the time travel elements feel a little bit more natural in the gameplay. So again, I mean, there's a lot we can blame Yuji Naka for, and, you know, God willing, there are a lot of games that did certainly lose a lot from his influence, but Sonic the Hedgehog, I don't think was one of them. Or at least for the games that he directed, personally. I mean, I'm not talking specifically about, you know, stuff like Heroes or whatever, when he was just like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, just do this, and hangs up the phone or whatever. Well, I mean, then again, producer also, again, they can technically say yes or no to things, but again, if there is anything to be said about Yuji Naka apart from his love of racing, expensive cars, and being a priss, yeah, the man loves to program, so again, depending on what happens to him now, I guess maybe he'll return to his first love, or he'll pretty much be fucked, because I don't exactly see him getting any more work in the industry if he's, you know, done the insider trading shit, so I guess he's either gonna be strictly indie gaming at this point, or bust. But anyway, to talk about South Island a little bit, the famed location from the original Sonic game, yeah, does actually kind of make you wonder exactly what civilizations used to live here, because I mean, the Sonic 2 manual elucidated a little bit more on, West Side Island, you know, basically being a prototype of, you know, what the Echidna civilization would be like in Sonic 3 and, Sonic Adventure. And, you know, the 3D games obviously having more story and interaction. South Island, though, we don't really get much of, if at all, really, which is quite surprised. I mean, again, the games do still do the whole, oh no, it exists on X Island, you know, with the Starfall Islands from Sonic Frontiers, and I can't quite remember what the name of the island was in Sonic Superstars. But again, they all seem to have, like, various mythologies and, you know, structures related around the Chaos Emeralds. So again, who knows, ample exploration for the 40th anniversary, maybe. Or I suppose maybe depending on what they do for a potential Frontiers sequel, because I do remember a lot of people complaining about Frontiers, oh my god, it looks like a Unity stochastic game, as opposed to just having a realistic art style. Because, you know, it's not like games have that nowadays. Whatevers. So I don't know, maybe we could potentially have a Frontiers-style game set on South Island. Which, I mean, if that would be the case, I would be interested in exploring 3D variants of the, you know, Marble Zone. Scrap Brain Zone, if it's, you know, still there as a decayed husk with, like, a cool reworked boss fight or something. I don't know. Nobody knows but me! Oh my god, that was potentially painful. Yeah, I'm also taking a route with, okay, I was taking a route with Marble Zone that I didn't usually take before, but, yeah, as you can see here, things didn't pan out for the best. So now, we gotta keep moving. Yes, but, in any case, I suppose I might as well talk about the soundtrack, actually, which, actually very rare and something that Sega did painfully learn their lesson from, was actually licensed by a band called Dreams Come True. Again, the soundtrack was composed in by Masato Nakamura, and again, that was licensed from his band, Dreams Come True, although it isn't one-for-one, because I actually did take a brief little listen to Dreams Come True just to see some comparisons between some of the tracks, and you can definitely recognize the melodies in there, but at the same time, though, like, I'll use an example, like, I mean, Green Hill Zone, you know, the iconic Sonic song that I'm pretty sure anybody watching this video automatically knows what it is, and if not, if you can block out my waffling commentary, it's what plays during Green Hill Zone. Yeah, that's pretty much a stand-in for the track, Marry Me, which is, again, it does still sound like Green Hill Zone and you can hear it, but it's also got, you know, a lot of Japanese vocals, but it's also very somber and romantic. Like, again, it's got the Green Hill Zone melody, but it's still got that whole sort of, like, sort of fantasy whimsy about it, which, again, is quite curious. I mean, I would stand to wonder whether or not that maybe that was meant to partially reflect the fact that, you know, again, one of the initial concepts was Sonic being in a band, and maybe that was meant to be, I guess, Madonna's theme, because they initially intended the idea of Sonic having, like, a human girlfriend who would constantly reject, which I guess was later traits that they transfer onto Amy, but I don't know, it's quite curious. Oh dear. I somehow survived that. Oh my god, clipping issues. And yeah, to kind of point things out, no, I'm not playing on the Sonic Oranges collection, / the Christian Whitehead ports, which those versions use. Instead, I'm pretty much playing the emulator port and the classic Mega Drive collection, so yeah, a part of the reason is that I pretty much had this already recorded before the Sonic Oranges collection already came out. Another reason is that, well, yeah, I figured I might as well show this version some love. But that's pretty much beside the point, really. It's probably one of the last times that we'll ever see a version like this being shown, because I'm pretty sure they'll probably just, I mean, again, actually, would they include, like, classic Sonic games on future Mega Drive collections, or would they just go for more obscure titles? I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't, but I mean, they already have Sonic Origins for that, and it's recent enough so that people should have it, so don't really know, really. Well, I mean, then again, that's also me saying that, I mean, that maybe Sega should maybe look into start doing some other collections, like, maybe a collection of obscure Dreamcast games, or Sega Saturn stuff. you know, provided that they can work out the emulation kinks, but I don't know, that's neither here nor there in this case, but I mean, I am still championing for, you know, ports of Sega Saturn stuff, because I mean, you know, it's a console that I feel a lot of games, if given exposure to a new audience, could, you know, not only add towards game preservation, but also, you know, giving them a bit more exposure than what they would have gotten back in the 90s. It's kind of lovely like that. And here we have my favourite level in the game, Spring Yard Zone. Although this was initially meant to be the precursor to Clockwork Zone, which was one of the original final zones in the game, as you could tell, as Sonic the Hedgehog had some very narrative synchronous theming of, you know, going from nature into the mechanized city areas, as you're seeing right in the background, but yeah, level order got changed, and I don't think the original order really would have stuck, because after Green Hill Zone you would have gone to Labyrinth Zone. And that really would have been fun, and people would have been coping, yes, just like that sign said, with everything else, really. Although, that being said though, part of the reason why I do like this level is that, again, it still has like a lot of the more, you know, tried and true platforming as you've seen in previous levels, but at the same time there's also a lot of, you know, inclines, peaks, and valleys for you to gain a bit of speed over. In fact, the only real bugbear I have with this level is the fucking slow-ass fucking Bonanza Brothers elevator sequences that you gotta wait for. But I mean, even then, that could also be seen as like a very early attempt at the sort of stopgap that I was mentioning earlier, where, okay, calm down, time for platforming, except it's instead time for, slow down and stop, I guess. But I mean, all that aside, I mean, the music's still pretty snazzy, and, yeah, stage hazard's challenging, decent level, I quite enjoy it. I suppose what does also sell me on the level as well is like that very, like that sort of dark violet dusk hue that the level has going on, as well as the contrast with the city background. Again, it's a very aesthetically pleasing level, and don't get enough of it, dude. Yeah, I will say also about like the soundtrack of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 as well. In terms of how it uses the Mega Drive instrumentation, it is quite transcendent in a quality that I don't really see out of a lot of Mega Drive games. Like, I mean, putting aside, you know, the very obvious twang that some games like Comic Zone, for example, have, the only other game that I really have that I've really seen that could really emulates the sort of music that Sonic the Hedgehog has is, bizarrely enough, Streets of Rage 3, but that's only because I think Yuzo Koshiro had a lot more, like a lot of experience with electronica music and was able to best utilize the Mega Drive sound chip, which, again, I don't know, I mean, there's something to be said about, you know, composers who know how to compose music, but at the same time also people who also know how to best utilize the Mega Drive sound chip, and this is admittedly a bit of a slight ranting coming towards Jun Tsunoya, at least in terms of some of his, you know, attempts at doing like a 16-bit throwback music where he tends to go for very Sonic 4 instrumentals. Again, the whole Dying Cat soundtrack, that kind of thing, really, like, again, he can compose some decent stuff, but again, you need someone like Tatsuyuki Maeda, who, again, as you know, demonstrated with Sonic 3D Blast and Sonic 3, you know, they do know genuinely how to create some very decent mixes for, you know, the Mega Drive sound chip to sound its best. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on it, and this was admittedly leading into a bit of a Sonic Superstars tangent where, you can definitely tell which soundtracks were T-Lopes and which ones were Jun Tsunoya. Although, again, having played Sonic Superstars, no, the soundtrack isn't, like, full-on Sonic 4 sort of music. It's okay for what it is. It's not great, but it's serviceable music. Albeit with a few kick and boss themes here and there. Like, I mean, I do admit I actually quite happen to like the, Eggman boss theme for Sonic Superstars, which, again, if I run out of things to talk about, well, I'll probably talk about Sonic current events, in terms of games or whatever. Because, I mean, to clarify, I have played Sonic Superstars, and I have at least seen a little bit of Sonic Dream Team, so yeah, I do have at least some things to say about them. I suppose, you know, since we have another special sode, yeah, might as well talk about, fucking Sonic Dream Team. Again, that was pretty much like I think it was like an iOS/Amazon fucking whatever game. Again, it looks kind of like fluff in my eyes, and I didn't really think too much of it. Although I will say, having a look at some of the gameplay and a bit of the level design, I do actually quite like the developers using like a lot of skate park aesthetics and, you know, level twists in order to create like interesting challenges. And, like, I mean, I know, if, you know, just blame it on my youth skateboarding for making me a little bit biased in that regard, but, again, like, I mean, from what I've seen of the gameplay, it utilizes that quite well, so, again, sound as a pound, really. And, as for anything else, Sonic Superstars, cause you're a superstar, Sonic Superstars. 90s R&B soul music, cause I got the soul power. Yeah, Sonic Superstars. Probably the most fun I've had with a classic Sonic game in a while. I mean, it's not without its flaws, mind you. Again, I really don't think it needed a hard mode trip storyline that does fuck all. Except for the end boss fight with Fang and unlocking a final story, which, even in that case, wasn't really too interesting. I mean, it's okay for what it is. I mean, the difficulty can sort of spike between being manageable and then being something that even hardcore Sonic nuts would probably have a bit of a problem with. Although the biggest thing about Superstars that I can't really say anything else about is, could you use some mid-boss fight checkpoints, because, yeah, you know, the modern generation games, they love their lengthy animations and, what have you, so, yeah, you're waiting a fair bit for that. Though, I mean, that being said, though, I do actually happen to quite like how Sonic Superstars looks, and again, unlike Mania or most of the other classic-ish games of that ilk that have tried this faux nostalgia kind of thing, one thing I will say to Superstars' credit, at least it looks like a genuine continuation of classic Sonic as opposed to, you know, Mania's whole thing of, what if Sonic Adventure didn't exist and we had a 2D 1996 game, because, fuck it, I like retconning history. It makes me feel like a man. But yeah, negativity out of the way, Sonic Superstars, decent game. I got nothing more to say on that. And that was the end of my Sonic trivia lesson. Here we go again. Am I gonna risk it? I don't know. Here we go. Because I'm hungry for the shield, because I'm a whore. Even though, yeah, this is... Oh, no, wait, no, this is Act 2, so, yeah, no boss fight just yet. No, well, I mean... Whatever. Just as long as you get out of the way of those little beppos. You know, the little bumper things that I now call beppos. Because that's the sound they made when I was younger. Beppo. Fucking Beppo. Boing. Nostalgia. Anyway, with anything else to talk about, I might as well talk about my introduction to the classic Sonic games. And for me, this was actually back in, yeah, I'd say... I remember actually getting the, I think it was like the Ultimate Mega Drive Collection, which was ported by Backbone, which, I mean, looking back, probably wasn't the best way to experience classic Sonic, but again, when that was, you know, still relatively recent, I did pick that one up and, you know, pretty much whet my appetite for a lot of Mega Drive games, and I did play Sonic 1 on that, but I also wasn't very impressed with it. I was just sort of was like, okay, it's fun, it's okay, it's... Because, I mean, bear in mind, like, I mean, back around when I first got that, I was just getting back into Sonic the Hedgehog as a franchise. Like, I mean, again, my journey started with, you know, getting back into Sonic X, watching all that. And again, in the days before my Dreamcast arrived, I basically just sort of had to make do with whatever games were nearest to me at the time, which, back then was pretty much Sonic the Hedgehog 1, which, you know, from the Ultimate Mega Drive Collection, and Sonic Colors from the Nintendo Wii that I had briefly at the time. Which I think I still have, although my sister might have taken it with her. At least I think. I gotta ask her about that, actually, because I'm wondering what the fuck happened to it. But yeah, brief rentings of Sonic Colors and playing through Sonic 1 aside. Yeah, it was just sort of a brief experience where the most fun I had with classic Sonic was more with Sonic and Knuckles, really, so... That pretty much tells you my life story. Thank you for listening. Oh no, I failed! No more Chaos Emerald Doodles for me! But yeah, if you get enough rings, you actually get to continue, which was back in the days when they actually mattered. Because yeah, I believe you have, at least at minimum, I think at least like 1 to 3 continues, I can't quite remember. But yeah, again, use up your continues pretty much back to the title screen, so again, unlike Super Mario Bros., where you pretty much get booted back to the beginning of the game regardless, or something like akin to Mega Man, you do actually have a couple of chances, although, personally, you know, despite how difficult Konami games could be back then, To me, nothing really beats the sort of, you know, classic Castlevania style, or even original Metal Gear style, like you know, you have infinite continues, but the game is also fucking balls hard, so... Yeah. I guess it's a sort of firm but fair. Tee-hee hoddle-ha, firm but. Okay, that's enough childish whimsy for now. Sonic the Hedgehog, we are doing a thing. Sega doesn't own this music because they have to pay licensing fees. That's why they own all the soundtracks of every other game. And yeah, that is actually true. Sega technically do not own the original Sonic the Hedgehog theme because that's copyrighted to the Dreams Come True album. Yeah, but pretty much every other, you know, song that Sega licensed after, I think especially Sonic the Hedgehog 3 after all the Michael Jackson shit that went down. What the fuck just happened there? Yeah, pretty much everything after Sonic the Hedgehog 3, they pretty much own the music to that in-house because, Jesus. Which, I mean, does actually come to a bit of a funny story, actually, because I believe it was, for Shadow the Hedgehog soundtrack with, I want to say it was Magnify. Like, again, one of the original songs for that game was, Who Am I? Which, again, was initially going to be the good theme of Shadow the Hedgehog, but again, the band liked the song so much and didn't want to fork over the rights to Sega, that they basically wrote All Hail Shadow as a replacement, and by God, you can fucking feel that, because regardless of whether or not it's the Crush 40 version or the Magnify version, All Hail Shadow is, just kind of eh. And, I mean, really, like, I mean, I can see why the band loved the song, because, I mean, Who I Am is fucking great. I just feel like it would have been a much better track for, you know, Shadow the Hedgehog's good ending than, you know, what we got. Because, I mean, All Hail Shadow was kind of boastful, which, I mean, is fitting for the hero story of Shadow the Hedgehog, if only because of the fact that Shadow acts like a total fucking cunt in that version. But again, that's more just down to poor writing in terms of anything else. Anyway, to get back on topic, yeah, Sega, they don't own the music to this one. Unless, of course, they fork out the licensing fees to put it to another fucking Yellow Devil. I should have cut down some of the deaths, but, yeah, whatever. It gives me a chance to listen to the music and click my fingers. Yeah. Oh dear, come on. Sonic the Hedgehog, this is the... Okay, yeah, potential controversial opinion here, but I also find the main theme of Sonic the Hedgehog to be kind of eh, to be perfectly honest. Like, I mean, again, it does sort of fit the heroic tone or whatever, but it's far from my favourite opening theme to the series, so... bleh. But anyway, regardless of such filler phrases to pad out for time, if there's any closing remarks I really do technically have... technically... oh yes, on a technical level... fucking whatever. I suppose I might as well talk about some of the Eggman bosses. Again, compared to a lot of other bosses, a lot of the ones in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 tend to be a little bit more... what's the word I could use? I don't want to say it's more puzzle-based than anything else, really. Not quite to the gimmicky extent of Sonic CD, but a lot of the bosses tend to be designed with a lot of, you know, simplistic gimmicks in mind. Like, again, you know, you have the whole swinging pendulum thing, which again is pretty much just your basic, you know, time your movements and move, you know, in between the, you know, the chain of Eggman swinging his ball around. God, there has to be a better way of putting that, but... yeah, and as you saw in Marble Zone, again, it's pretty much just look out for the platforms in which he drips flames on. You know, that sort of thing. A lot of it does probably seem like very basic sort of game design fare, but I mean, compared to, you know, a lot of other platformers at the time where your strategy pretty much just boiled down to shoot the thing, or use enemies' X weakness, or just run to the end of the level, jump over Bowser and, you know, drop a hammer on him, or some fucking shit. Again, Sonic the Hedgehog's bosses, I feel, do kind of, you know, play a little cut ahead of a lot of other games at the time. I don't know, it's just really interesting in which, you know, the game's boss fights are handled. I do kind of wish I went out of my way to praise it a little bit more in the review, but then again, that was Season 3 Solidus-Skully, who was still young and naive, and not very believed-ing. Whatever, the point is that I just kind of wish I went to further dividends to point out the strategy at play, and how it relies a little bit more on player skill, you know, with the momentum mechanics as opposed to, well, not necessarily the momentum mechanics, more so the platforming abilities, more so than it is just hurriedly shooting the thing and hoping for the best. What the fuck was that? Whatever, I'm on a donut break, my laddie-o. Goddamn. Yeah, I know a lot of these robots do have names, I guess I'm gonna talk a bit of trivia here. Yeah, differences in naming. Again, they call the Eggman robots badniks for some reason. I have no idea why. I guess maybe to be a play on like a beatnik, maybe? Or just to give him like more of a unique, radical, cool jelly and jam time sort of naming schema. Yeah, but yeah, they actually do have legitimate names like Buzz Bombers, Caterkillers, no wait, these are called crab meats, I think? Yeah, so they do technically have names, but I can't really be bothered to remember them. To me, they're just robots. Grist for the mill, one might say. Oh yes, the evening sun is setting. And I'm talking about in terms of the real world, not not in the game, although, again, like, the time of day is matching the in-game setting of Sonic 1, so, I mean, it does technically fit. Alright, let's get out of here. We're pretty much making our way towards the end. Bossy, holy fucky crappin'. Whew, that was a close one. Jesus Christ, the crushing and the glavin is quite scary. Basic platforming. Hell, utterly tedious, and I suppose if I can point out anything else, like, I swear to God, a lot of the vistas of this, like, cityscape and, like, a lot of the urban bush kinda makes me feel like we're wandering around, one of the levels of Streets of Rage 1 specifically. I don't know, it's, quite odd anyway. This level gimmick, Eggman gradually drops down, he tries to put a spike in your face, and I'm curious, actually. I mean, I've never technically let it happen before, but is it possible for Eggman to destroy all the blocks before you can get him? Or will it be the kind of thing where blocks, like, gradually respawn to give you a chance? Whatever. It's a kind of an easy boss, and kind of one that I feel maybe should have preceded Mobile Zone. I mean, if you're gonna scale up difficulty, but quiche. Nothing more to see. And now Sonic has passed away. Poor Sonic. He's dead. I can't believe Sonic's fucking dead. And now we have Labyrinth Zone. Beware your screams and shouts, and I suppose to any newcomers out there, what makes this level particularly infamous among a lot of the fandom is, you gotta go super glacial at a pace no one likes. Or to put it in other words, it's fucking slow as molasses, and you also gotta deal with drowning bullshit that was no doubt the bane of many people's childhoods, because Sonic has a limited air supply, regardless of whether or not he has a shield, and the only way to replenish that is pretty much just sucking up bubbles. I mean, I used to suck up bubbles as well whenever I used to drink some drain cleaner. That made me sound like I was on a rampage! And speaking of crocodiles, Vector the Crocodile, first invented as part of Sonic's band, but then left unused until Knuckles Chaotix. Hence the crocodile tangent. And why they're on a rampage! But to go back to the level design specifically, yeah. I mean, on top of being slow, there's also a lot of stage hazards that can pip you, the fact that you can easily lose a lot of your rings just by doing very basic mistakes. And overall, it's just not a very fun time to be playing this level. He says as his editor begins to lag. But I mean, putting all that aside though, again, it is fairly easy to get a decent run of Labyrinth Zone, you just gotta be patient. But I mean, again, the fact that you can go fast in other levels means that your brain is thinking, oh no, I wanna go fast again. Which means you're gonna start rushing through things that you otherwise shouldn't, and hazards that you would otherwise be more patient at dealing with in normal levels, you pretty much just decide aren't worth waiting for anymore, and you try and rush through with the power of speed and power. Because speed and power solve many things. Except they don't solve many things, and they basically lead you to death, and failure, and seppuku, which is a lovely Japanese dish. But in terms of anything else, though, like, I mean, Labyrinth Zone, again, it is probably the most tedious and dull zone of the game, but by that same token, however, again, if you're patient, you can clear it fairly easily, up until a point, really, because the real bullshit of Labyrinth Zone comes right at the tail end of Act 3, where despite being very slow and tedious, there is actually one little section when you're not even technically fighting Eggman, but more so chasing him. In the sense that, again, you're pretty much just trying to play catch-up with him, but there's this one finicky fucking jump that, I swear to God, if you want to get through with all your rings, you need to have a fucking shield power-up in order to, you know, just sort of clear the buffer, because otherwise you're pretty much tanking a hit regardless, which is just, aggravating. And, by the way, if you couldn't tell with those little, owl, monoliths on the little stones here and there, yes, this was meant to carry on from Green Hill Zone, which had similar owl motifs on the Green Hill Zone totems. Actually, now that I bring that up, I was just thinking back to the Sonic movie. There's, I mean, that is to say the Sonic movie that came out recently, the 2021. And, again, in that movie, like, Sonic is pretty much raised by this bizarrely hyper-realistic looking owl called Longclaw. And, again, he did, I mean, canonically, he did live in Green Hill Zone in the movie continuity, so... was that where they got the inspiration for Longclaw? Like, from the little glyphs here? I don't know, I never really made that connection before, but, you know, pretty interesting if they did. And, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them anyway, because, I mean, they did, like, include, like, little bits and pieces of fan service all throughout the Sonic movies, so, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, but still, it's a bit of an odd detail. I mean, I still haven't seen the second Sonic movie, mind you, so again, I don't really know if anything happens there, but... regardless, it's all just fun in the sun. By the way, Orbinauts, they fling their balls at you. God, Sonic and ball flinging. Sonic and the Ball Flinger, one of the hidden storybook games that was banned for being too pornographic. And yet again, another hint about Sonic's fantasy origins with the gargoyle shooting spittle at you. But yeah, I mean, to kind of go back to that, like, early Sonic beginnings, you know, with what Sonic 1 was going to be as a more fantasy-esque game as opposed to, you know, Sonic fighting a mad scientist or whatever. Again, a lot of the enemies that you would have faced, Eggman wasn't even technically going to be the main villain, it was actually going to be like this... I think it was either like this, like this evil pair of glowing eyes where it uses disembodied hands to attack Sonic. I guess acting as like a sort of prototype for Wise Man the Wicked from Nights into Dreams, actually. But yeah, they were basically going to be like a bunch of fantasy creatures, like you know, like a bat, or just like a bunch of little abstract objects, which does make me wonder what bizarre fucking apparitions the series would have taken had it continued down that path, but I don't know, I suppose we'll never find out, because I do believe that there is technically a build of like Sonic in its more fantasy-esque tone out there, but yeah, very little footage of it remains. There's only like one very blurry screenshot from back in... I think it was like very early 1990, maybe 1989, when that was being conceptualized. But yeah, sadly there's no real clarity screenshots of it. I mean, we do have like a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog art books that do kind of shed light on, you know, what a lot of the designs would have been like, but yeah, nothing in terms of how the game would have played. I mean, the earliest thing you can really see in terms of Sonic 1 is a slightly darker looking version of Green Hill Zone as it initially was meant to be that actually does share a lot of similarities to the version that we wind up seeing in the Master System port of Sonic 1, which I believe technically came out first, so... At least I think so, I'm not quite sure on the dates about that, but I think it might have released like a month to a few weeks before the Mega Drive retail release. Ruh-roh, Raggy! Well... Anyway, overstated trivia of the day. Yes, Sonic can't actually swim, except hedgehogs can swim, and Yushinaka just kind of forgot that hedgehogs can swim. And I suppose in terms of latency, this was probably designed as more of a gameplay gimmick to see how you handle a game without speed and a lot of other hazards that can pip you at every turn. At least presumably, because I don't exactly see how this game probably would have handled basic swimming controls. I mean, especially if Sonic's glitch jump right there is anything to go by, but... anyway, that's just, another here nor there in this case. Labyrinth Zone. Even your theme is very ponderous and dwelling. Yeah, I mean, to kind of, like, go into a bit of a problem that Sonic the Hedgehog 1 has as a bit of a whole is that... Again, it's a remarkably solid game for what it is worth, it's just that it's also... not very exciting when you compare it to a lot of the other games of the series. I mean, it's a good proof of concept for where the rest of the series would go. It's just that anything that this game does, a lot of the other later games tend to do a little bit better, or at least have more interesting facets to their design to talk about, really, because, I mean, not to say that Sonic 1 doesn't have anything to its merit. I mean, hell, I was commentating over this game right now that, you know, I actually did notice that the boss fights have a little bit more than, you know, what other games did, you know, what a lot of other games of its ilk had at the time. But, I don't know, really, it's just, sort of it is what it is, really. Son of a fucking bin chicken. Delicious rings. Teacher, mother, and secret lover. Yep. A lot of exciting things to say. Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose I might as well talk about where I initially called it quits in terms of, my earlier Sonic 1 playthroughs. Yeah, this was pretty much it. I mean, it was specifically Act 3, which we're gonna be getting to next, because Sonic has passed away. Oh, Sonic, you're dead! But yeah, it was, as I mentioned earlier, it was pretty much the point where you're pretty much chasing Eggman up the shaft with a pedal up the arse, and, that's... it's just dull and tedious, really. Save me from the boredom of fucking whatever else. Yeah, I got nothing, really. Might as well just sort of shoot the shit, really. At least in regards to fucking anything else that's going on for the time being. Try and keep it within the realms of Sonic, obviously, but... yeah, just, I suppose I might as well talk about one bit of Sonic trivia that actually did make its way back into, believe it or not, Sonic Superstars, because there was actually a level concept with, I'm trying to remember what the level's name was. It wasn't Golden... no, that's not Golden Globe, it was, Golden Capital? Or Capitol Hill, I think? Oh, wait, no, it's, I want to say Golden Capital. It was basically a zone with like a lot of ornate ring designs and was meant to be pretty much the tertiary get lots of rings and get lots of lives stage, but was cut out of Sonic 1 for unknown reasons. Eventually reinstated back into Sonic Superstars and, yeah, it's actually one of the more fun levels of that game, and has some pretty unique boss fights, including like destroying a giant piggy bank by getting onto its back and smashing it down as we deal with gravity shifting shenanigans as you roll onto the roof and, you know, do some wall running stuff. Allegedly pioneered in Sonic the Hedgehog 4, according to allegedly pioneered in Sonic 4, according to Takashi Iizuka in one bullshit interview. Anyway, that was a drowning theme. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been waffling on for quite a while now. And as it turns out, it doesn't give you a lot to talk about when all you have to see is just putrid green water that probably hasn't been cleaned. This is where all the animals take a crap. Ugh. This place is full of feces and I love feces. Said Sonic, the normal Sonic, the regular Sonic, the average Sonic. Come on. I mean, I suppose I might as well just sort of waste a little bit more time and talk about maybe some of the Sonic TV shows that came out around this time. Because, I mean, yeah, obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog doing as well as it did back in the 90s also had a set of TV shows, so, again, if you want to hear my opinions on, any of the ones that I've seen, now's the time! So I guess I might as well start with the obvious one. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was, for those of you not in the know, basically this Looney Tunes ripoff with a Sonic skin on it. And, I'm gonna say it's just a remarkable... Like, I mean, it's really saying something when a lot of those clips were put to better use in, like, fucking old, late 2000s YouTube poops, more than anything else, but apart from that, the series itself is not worth watching. It's just... Although, bizarrely enough, it does actually have a surprisingly big fanbase of people who prefer that to the next Sonic show, Sonic Sat AM, which I haven't seen since my initial get back into Sonic Sugar Me Doo back in 2009. This was, you know, to kind of tell you how far back in the day it was, this was also back in the day when they actually had, like, full episodes of Sat AM uploaded to YouTube. I mean, I think they still technically do now via, like, a fucking YouTube Kids channel thing. But, you know, back in the day it was pretty much split into parts by anonymous fucking uploaders. And, anyway, on to SatAM itself. First season was okay, despite being based on the Western continuity, which isn't really much of my thing. Second season, though, was just, It's, had a lot more weaker episodes and also a lot more irritating characters introduced. Namely, Dulcie the fucking Dragon, which looks completely fucking antithetical to anything Sonic related, because it looks like they got a fucking Puff the Magic Dragon looking character to just, you know, be in this fucking furry resistance movement, stop Eggman, who's basically Skynet in this fucking thing. Anyway, SatAM was, yeah, it was alright. Just, okay. And then, of course, we have Sonic Underground, which, I mean, I have technically reviewed-ish once. And, Sonic Underground is kinda cap shit. Because, I mean, it was basically the last Dick Entertainment project before the Dreamcast release, and had fuck all to do with anything to Sonic Adventure, or even Sonic itself, really. It was pretty much just, I think from what I recall, it was basically just a means of, okay, we can't continue SatAM, but here's a similar-ish thing written by Ben Hurst, before he passed away. And then also just the sort of thing where it's like, Sonic has some siblings that are in a rock band, they never find their mother, and Knuckles has a dinosaur for some reason. Anyway, like, I mean, the fact that it was episodic also meant that there wasn't really a lot of time for character arcs, and even in that case, I don't know, like, Underground had its moments, but was just thoroughly fucking tedious. Anyway, so I suppose moving on to greener pastures, well, sort of. Oops, accidentally nudged the rewind feature there. But yeah, Sonic X. Japanese version only, probably the closest thing to a Sonic show that I actually still kind of enjoy. Particularly for a lot of its adaptation of Sonic Adventure elements, and I suppose even for the way in which it sort of fleshed out the world as it would have been during the Adventure era. I mean, regardless of how you feel about the whole, fucking Chris Thorndike whatever bullshit. Again, I felt like it was markedly solid work, and, you know, outside of Chris, like, I mean, a lot of the characters in Sonic X were, again, they were either negligible or at least entertaining in their own right. Like, I mean, I will say, I actually do kind of enjoy Rouge and Topaz's dynamic, but yeah, Sonic X, pretty solid. I actually do happen to really enjoy the Meta-X story arc from the Japanese dub, which is funny because I absolutely couldn't fucking stand it in the 4Kids dub when I later learned that it was horribly butchered from what it initially was. Oh, finally, Starlight Zone, I can stop talking about Sonic television shows. It's beautiful here. Okay, you know what, just to briefly touch upon, you know, Sonic Boom. Comedy TV show that could have literally been anything else. Like, I mean, you literally could have called it Crash Bandicoot Boom or Ratchet and Clank Boom. You know, but the same sort of characters and had pretty much the exact same sort of plots, so... I understand why people like it, but... meh. And then there's Sonic Prime that I haven't seen and don't intend to because it looks... It's basically just, hey, what if Green Hill Zone was a dimension, and then we had Sonic in Pirate Land, or Sonic in Cyberland, and then there was Emo Tales or some shit, and fucking, then there's Shadow or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the Sonic TV shows. Anyway, on to more lighthearted topics with Starlight Zone. Fan favorite level from Sonic 1, and you know what, I do very much agree with that. I love the fucking shining look of the cityscape, and again, it really does sort of harmoniously tie together that sort of Yuji Naka, you know, actionized elements, you know, as you go through a lot of the urbanized construction and cityscapes, in tandem with, like, a very fantastical looking, you know, something that kind of blends together elements of, like, you know, the Monday kind of New York kind of vibes with a bit of a light pole with, you know, Japanese city kind of aesthetics. I mean, primarily in terms of, like, the way in which a lot of the street lamps look and the way in which, you know, the city really lights up at night. I don't know, it's just a really beautiful looking level, and in terms of speed and platforming, it hits the balance, just right, in a Green Hill Zone kind of way. I don't know why I'm doing an Italian accent. Oh, by the way, if you fall down the level too far, yeah, you do actually die, from bottomless pits. Damn you. Precursor to Sonic CD Time Travel Springs. Why must you get in my way? Anyway, to talk more technical turkeys in terms of Sonic the Hedgehog, parallax scrolling. Basically when level 1 foreground elements pretty much move in tandem and pretty much create the illusion of a level moving forward with you. So again, you can actually sort of see it as you jump up and down between bits of the level, but yeah, you can also see, you know, the building sites down below as you get closer to the ground, and as you get higher, you pretty much see, you know, the stars in the cityscape. It's a very beautiful technique that was used to its best here. And like, I mean, say what you will about the Sonic games, regardless of, you know, regardless of a lot of their errors, but again, they too have some pretty beautiful looking technical aesthetics, and again, I mean, even with these, like, classic Mega Drive stars just sort of painted on there, it just looks so pretty. Makes me look into the night sky, looking off into the Tom Baker Nebula, and seeing the Doctor Who logo just merge into view from the 1980s. Yeah, but you see, look at that, loops, inclines, utilising the rolling ball form. And unlike that lying Sonic Origins collection, there's no spin dash here, so yeah, all that speed, you pretty much gotta put the work in and, you know, put the work in yourself. I mean, okay, you do technically have fans, which clearly was the beginning of automation in Sonic games. It started with the fans, then had the spin dash and speed boosters to make you go fast. And I'm going to stop this voice before it becomes very annoying. Like somebody who was making a YouTube video essay. Ah, damn it, I cannot reach! Ah! Oh dear, that's the end of Sonic. I can't believe Sonic's fucking dead. Whee. Yeah, to talk about the music of Starlight Zone in and of itself, I can't remember if I heard the Dreams Come True version of this, but again, this very much encapsulates the feel of what, you know, that album was like. I mean, obviously it does have real instruments sort of accompanying it with, like, a lot of, gentle melodies, but I mean, in terms of, like, portraying that in terms of, like, Mega Drive translations, again, quite a snazzy rendition. It's, very beautiful. I'm calm. Actually, you know, kind of think about it, you know, in terms of how Sonic took off in popularity, it does actually kind of make me feel a little bit sorry for Alex Kidd, who was pretty much relegated to the fucking, waste bin of history, and, what was the last thing he was in? Because, I mean, there was, like, the Alex Kidd and Miracle World, remake, I believe? But what exactly happened to that? I mean, I think it was by the same developers who made, like, Monster Boy, I think? Or Monster World? I can't quite remember what the name of that, those games were, but yeah, it kind of disappeared into the ether, which is a little bit of a shame, really. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Sega never actually attempted to, like, sort of revamp the franchise or whatever, because, not too long ago— oh, okay, I say not too long ago, but this was like 10 fucking years ago now. I actually remember seeing, like, some concept art for what would happen if, like, Sega did, like, a bit of a modernization rejig of Alex Kidd, where, again, like, they tried turning him into, like, sort of like a martial artist kind of guy with, again, his Kung Fu style being based on the, you know, Jung Ken Pon Paper Scissors Rock style gameplay that you have in Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle. Which, I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, the kind of design they gave him, like, with a, you know, with, like, a bit of a cool looking jacket and that kind of thing, I don't know, I would have been interested to see, like, a more of a martial arts reinterpretation of Alex Kidd. I mean, granted, it's not as if the Alex Kidd games really had much of the, in the way of mythos to speak of. I mean, unless, of course, you can Alex Kidd in Enchanted Castle with his father, Thor, and, like, his, I guess his adopted brother, Ashura, for the final boss, and he starts crying to Thor, and, oh no, Alex Kidd's father was safe all along. Which kind of made that whole game a bit fucking pointless. I don't know, I mean, there's a reason why Alex Kidd was replaced, and, maybe the Enchanted Castle was the final straw in the coffin, really. By the way, who cooked up these special stages? Maybe they were just experimenting with 3D. Maybe they were smoking some of the doobies, the PCP, ice, crack, boom, pow, snorting a line of pixie dust, picking their balls, Alice Cooper's toenail clippings, in a bong. Whatever, the point is that they had some very imagination for creating things. And it wasn't just to experiment with the technology. Kind of like the weird out-of-this-dimension level from Star Fox. Yeah, the original Star Fox. I was gonna say 64, but no, it was the original Star Fox with the out of this world level. Again, like, I mean, if you hit the flying bird and, I can't remember what route you have to take for it, but, yeah, it's hit the flying bird and, you get to see the developers testing some of the 3D visuals with a slot machine. And bizarro things. By the way, a weird quirk with the seesaw. Yeah, you actually get maximum height if you stay right in the center. I have no idea why that is, but, yeah, stay right in the center after launching it up. And yeah, you get a lot more height than in fact you should. So yeah, there was obviously a bit of fine-tuning in play for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but, I mean, all that aside though, it's decently handled, I guess. Whee! It pleases the id of my brain whenever we increaseth and speedeth. Just like how whenever I snort the speedeth, I also increaseth in drug dependency. Yep, here we go. I've run out of anything to say. Now comes the brain-soaked tangents. And you wanna know what the weird thing is? I haven't even had anything to drink yet, so... I don't know, maybe I would've benefited from booze. There we go. And this is also a hint of what I was talking about earlier, where Eggman tends to have some more, for the lack of a better phrase, puzzle-based boss fights. Again, in terms of the seesaw, it's pretty much utilizing the mechanics you've already had, you know, in terms of bouncing Sonic up high or using the seesaws with bombs, regardless. But this time, however, it's also utilizing it with, well, either hitting the bobs, yeah, hitting the bombs back towards Eggman, or using the seesaw to bounce Sonic up high enough to keep him from getting to you, baby. Why the fuck do I have Remember the Titans on the brain? I blame Birth by Sleep, because I just finished recording Terra's story, and guess what part I just finished at the time of recording. But anyway, just use Sonic to get up to Eggman, blow him up, and if you're playing Sonic Genesis on the GBA, you can actually just jump up to Eggman and say, fuck it, and hit him regardless. Oh! By the way, really cool animation quirk with Eggman himself, actually, is that, again, if you actually die from one of his attacks, he'll actually look at the camera smiling at you. Or again, if you blow up his mech, then, you know, he'll panic and run away. I don't know, that's like, that's the one thing that Sonic games usually tended to have over, like a, you know, the traditional Mario or Mega Man-esque sort of thing. Like, I mean, Sonic games were also very expressive animation-wise, which gave the games a lot more personality than a lot of other mascots of its era, really. But, I mean, again, you can tell because they tended to give them, like, a lot of, oh man, look at this cool guy with sunglasses, but they wouldn't really express anything during gameplay. Sonic, on the other hand, again, leave him idle for a moment, again, he'll pretty much tap his foot telling you to hurry the fuck up. And, you know, he constantly runs around with this very pissed off look on his face, like he's very determined to, you know, put a stop to Eggman's tyranny. I don't know, just subtle little animation touches like that just really add a lot of personality to the character, which is kind of why it's partially baffling to me that everybody tries to portray classic Sonic as very cutesy. I don't know, like, I mean, Sonic partially got that, you know, classic Sonic specifically partially got that, you know, dead serious attitude back in Superstars, at least in terms of his character animation, so there is that, but... yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, for a while there in Generations and Forces, they tried to portray him as, like, happy kiddo Sonic in Happy Land, which... I don't know, it just didn't really gel with the character, and was also... believe it or not, part of the reason why in the mid-90s Yuji Naka thought that it was a detriment to his character and thus created modern Sonic. So yeah, cutesy Sonic killed Sonic. Who knew? Anyway, this is Scrap Brain Zone, formerly known as Clockwork Zone, and oh no, dark and depressing game. So intense, dark and edgy. I mean, just look at this level, this is basically what a Mega Drive version of Shadow the Hedgehog would have looked like, so yeah. What are you complaining about with 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog? Yeah, but anyway, I tried to take the top route, but I failed. And now Sonic will putrefy and turn into a zombie within the hour. Oh wait, that already happened many years ago when Sonic went to 3D. What a timely joke. So let's see, what other 2007 Sonic things can I bring up? Oh no, kissing a princess. Sonic's shitty friends. Complex dark stories. Bad game. Ah, queesh, whatever. Anyway, I suppose if there's anything I can say about Scrap Brain Zone in and of itself, it is a level that actually does change up with each specific area you go to, which to me does sort of act as a bit of a blueprint for where the games would go from Sonic the Hedgehog 2 onwards, because, again, like, you start off outside the facility, or, you know, making your way through in the underground, then you pretty much go inside Scrap Brain Zone, which is where, you know, a lot more of the factory settings of Eggman's machines are being created and all that kind of thing. And then for the final zone, you pretty much get towards the underground foundations where, you know, Eggman's lair pretty much is, and I don't know, I really like the level of progression that this... excuse me, I really like the level of progression that Scrap Brain Zone has in terms of how it, you know, in terms of how it adequately portrays progress. I don't know, I mean, it's a really interesting thing and does sort of highlight where the games will later go on. I mean, granted, Sonic 2 didn't do this too much, but Sonic 3 definitely does, and I don't know, it's just, it really adds a sense of finality to the level as you get closer and closer towards Eggman's final lair, which does kind of make me wonder, like, I mean, if the level order wasn't fucked around, or maybe they toyed around with a bit more of the level design to make it a bit more palatable and more, you know, naturally scaling in terms of difficulty, is it possible we could have had this throughout the entire game? Because, I think that would have been cool. Like, I mean, just picture this, a fast, fun-to-play labyrinth zone. Wouldn't that have been special? Oh, we did it. We got the signpost. Hey, look it out! Check it out! It's a poster for Sonic's new movie! The Sonic Movie 2, which is already out. And, yeah, I think in terms of Sonic movies coming out now, I think Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is due for release. But again, I'll probably have to watch Sonic 2 before I see any of that. Assuming I even see it in cinemas at all, or whatever else. Yeah, I'll get to it eventually. Actually, also in terms of other Sonic things coming out, in the not-too-distant future, isn't the Knuckles TV series coming out soon? Huh. I wonder if it's, gonna have Idris Elba in it, or if it's gonna have, like a fucking sound-alike or whatever. Because, I mean, I do think it is being published by, I think it's Paramount Plus? But could they afford Idris Elba, though? Because, I mean, the guy is, like, pretty high up there in terms of, Hollywood stardom, and is a pretty esteemed actor, so... yeah, kind of curious, really. I mean, I suppose for lack of anything else to talk about, in terms of, like, portrayals for Knuckles, again, I still haven't seen the second Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but from what I have seen from clips of, Idris Elba's portrayal of Knuckles, goddamn, he is actually quite up there for me. Like, I mean, again, he gets down that sort of baritone voice quite nicely, and, I don't know, the guy's just a really good fit for the character. It kind of makes me sadden that almost every voice actor, you know, after Scott Dreyer took after Dan Green, which... I mean, again, let's be honest here, nobody can do Dan Green better than Dan Green, and, you know, even though I do like Dan Green's Knuckles, voice for Knuckles, at least in the early days, where it was sort of a bit more of a baritone pitch for Yami Yugi as opposed to anything else, I don't know. I suppose I'm saying this specifically more for Travis Willingham as opposed to, I think it's Dave Mitchell who voices him now, but, yeah, just stop copying Dan Green. He deserves his voice, and he needs your support. Anyway, to talk about Act 2 of Scrap Brain Zone, this one is a lot more densely packed with hazards and buzzsaws that'll try and pip you. I mean, even ones that fly off the handle and pretty much just try to completely, you know, just cut Sonic down to size. But I mean, apart from that though, like, I mean, yeah, a lot more hazards that can pip you, but again, it's nowhere near the fucking Bane and glacial pacing of, you know, Labyrinth Zone, so... Again, while you might get pipped by a few more stage hazards and, you know, conveyor belts that'll sort of, you know, create little hurdles to your progress, it is still levels that, you know, if you've got enough skill and enough patience, you can get through and, win. Because we will win till we die. Until I stab you in the eye, day by day, killing everybody in the way. I'm not caving in. Live to win. Yeah, live, win. Man, I'm feeling very musical this evening. Queashed. Anyway, to talk about anything else, take a look at those Genocide City Zone assets. Yeah, seriously, color this purple, put it in Sonic Spinball, and yeah, we pretty much have the assets that were going to be used for Genocide City back in... what was meant to be Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But wait, what is this? No, fade to black. Oh no, it's the end and evil of Eggman. He is laughing at us, and then he pretty much sends us down to the basement. We'll be coming for you. So yeah, this is technically Act 3, which is meant to be Labyrinth Zone. Ah! But just jump through here. Did I skip a segment of the level? I don't think I did. I don't actually take this pathway of the level very often, I don't think, so yeah, here's the main pathway that I never go across, but there is technically a cheat to this, because I think I might die before now and then, so don't worry, you'll be seeing both ways to go through, so this is the wrong way. Unless I succeed here, in which case that may be the right way. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, I don't know what I guess this was meant to be a precursor to the toxic gun from Sonic 2, but yeah, I guess this is meant to be showing Eggman polluting the environment. You know, with subtle messages about Sonic being about the environment. Which, as we all know, is the most dangerous monster of them all. Oh no, wait, I do succeed, never mind. So it seems that I went the right way. Right way? Right-roll, Raggy. Anyway, it's time for the final boss, which, to kind of cut out the silliness for a little bit, I do legitimately like. I mean, again, you've got no rings, but it is also a fair and balanced boss fight. Again, Eggman pretty much appears in one of these four little piston crushers, and it's up to you to pretty much dodge out of the way of his, you know, electro projectiles, and make sure you get the right piston. So again, you can either play it safe and wait until he gets into a certain piston, you know, that's closest to you without, you know, getting in total risk of either being crushed or electrocuted. Or again, you can pretty much play it dangerously by, you know, baiting all the electric pylons to one side, and hitting the pistons when Eggman appears next to them. But yeah, which one he appears in is randomized, at least to my knowledge, so yeah, it does make for a pretty tense and rewarding boss fight when you finally beat it. I mean, the fact that you have no rings is... It's nerve-wracking, and again, I do usually prefer to have rings for more of a lengthier boss fight, but the way in which this one's set up, it's fair, but at the same time, no less tense, so again, it's all within your power to pretty much just, you know, locate the correct Eggman piston and take him down. Old school, man! Then, to also comment on the boss themes, again, I know they're technically owned by Dreams Come True and Masato Nakamura and whatever, but I do really like the, you know, the main boss theme for, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 in terms of, you know, when you encounter a boss at the end of the level, and especially the final boss theme. Like, again, it has this really climactic feel to it, and, it's just soulful attention. I say in soulful attention. I don't know, it just really conveys, like, the whole, this is the final battle with Eggman. If you lose, then everything is pretty much fucked, and everyone will hate you. But we got him! He's making a run for it. And it also proves that, yeah, Eggman's mech actually has legs and wings, so... Yes, technically Sonic Adventure 2 could have happened in 2D with mech gameplay. Although, because I didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds, sadly, no, you're not going to be getting flowers springing up, but... nothing really special there anyway, so fuck it, really. But that's okay. We give Eggman a Chaos Emerald, so he has enough power to fuel his empire on West Side Island. Meanwhile, we find the Chaos Emeralds there and then become Supersonic, continuity restored, Sonic Team staff, boopy doopy, creating 8-bit music and fucking 16-bit boopy doopy, shitty music. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Yeah, by the way, because of the fact that Japanese developers were also quite secretive about... Well, actually more publishers than anything else, they were secretive about their members. And of course, you know, cartridge space. Yeah, they pretty much utilized, pretty much synonyms. So again, Karol Yas is, you know, Hirokazu Yasuhara, U2 is Yuji Naka, Big Island is Naoto Oshima, Phoenix Rie is, obviously, Rie Kodama. God, I'm a fucking nerd. Why do I know so much more about Sega production stuff? Oh, there, to kind of talk about that, actually, Big Island is pretty much a direct translation of Naoto Oshima's name, so, yeah. Now you know. Anyway, that was Sonic the Hedgehog 1. I do apologize if this commentary was a little bit more fucking doolally than what otherwise would have been expected, but... I don't know, I hope you gleaned some wisdom from my maddening ramblings, and if not, then... I don't know, I hope you just sort of enjoy the ride with me. Masato Nakamura, no doubt enjoying all of those Sonic royalties that he gets from the music. Probably laughing all the way to the bank if he's... Is he still with us? I'm pretty sure he is. Ah, well. Yeah, regardless of such, he's making bank off all of those soundtracks, I guess. Rivaled only by the likes of Michael Jackson, who still gets royalties, even though he contributed, like, one song to the album, and that's pretty much it. And you can tell what that is. Here's a hint, it's the original launch base zone. But anyway, that's Sonic the Hedgehog 1. What a legend. More Birth by Sleep to come, after that Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and more commentaries to follow, so on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and happy Australia Day 2024. Catch you later.